ChatGPT itself was not a significant leap. We were already working on LLMs in the research field. What they did was they made it easily accessible to everyone.
Let's say another country figures out quantum computing and hacking before we do, and you open your bank account and there's no money in there. That is the most realistic, scary thing that I think that could happen to us.
As far as when we'll actually reach artificial general intelligence, I think it's pretty plausible to say that 5 years is a reasonable time frame. Science funding is completely under attack right now. It completely pauses research programs all over the country. Every advancement OpenAI has made over the past 3 years completely shut off to the rest of the world, right? Nobody knows. Consciousness can be something built on top of biological neurons, but consciousness can also be something that's built on top of completely artificial computation systems. This technology is so powerful, it affects every single field of study, every single job on Earth. Anything this powerful can also be used to create deep fakes and fool people that don't know better and run scams to take money from older people.
Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to Talkin St. Pete. I am your host, Ryan Bogden. Talkin St. Pete is a podcast where we talk to all the movers and shakers, cool business owners, artists, founders, you name it, anyone who's shaping the greater Tampa Bay area. We want to talk to them, and that's what this show is all about. This podcast is sponsored by Bogden Homes at Keller Williams St. Pete. We're here to help you with all your home needs in the greater Tampa Bay area. So if you need any information on what's my home worth, should I sell, should I buy, find our contact information in the description below. And now on to my amazing guest. If you've been a fan of the show and you've been watching, you know I've been talking a lot about AI for a long time. And today I have the honor and privilege to introduce Dr. John Licato, Associate Professor at USF and founder and CEO of Actualization AI. He is leading and pioneering this space on the education front, and I'm super excited to dive into his world today and pick your brain. So John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and shout out to Amber Bennett. Thank you so much for connecting us. We wouldn't have this happening today if it wasn't for her. So grateful for that. So John, and for our listeners, like, clear your schedule because we're gonna have a good one here. Okay. How did you begin your journey on this road to this thing called AI that is the buzzword of all the headlines?
Yeah. I've been in AI for about 20 years at this point. I just redid the calculation because I've been saying 15, but now it's time to.
Time's been passing by as you've been saying that. Okay.
So like a lot of people in computer science, it's video games, right? And video games gets you into the field. You play a game and you realize that the physics engine isn't quite working as well as it should, and the enemies are not as smart as they could be. They're too easy to trick and to beat, right? And of course, that's not the case now. Physics engines are super realistic, but when I was a kid, you would have these little tricks you could use to beat the bad guys, and you'd be like, why can't they adapt? Why can't they figure it out, right? And then you go and dive into it, and you realize how they're very rule-based, they're very structured, they don't have the same kind of flexibility that human beings do. And, that took me down a huge rabbit hole where I studied psychology, philosophy, what makes the mind work and what knowledge is. And I'm back in computer science.
Okay, so video games sparked the interest, which that's fun. First, are you a native here to St. Pete, or how did you end up here?
I'm not. I actually grew up in Hawaii, on
cool.
the island of Oahu, which, I was born and raised there. I've been here since 2017. Interestingly enough, maybe it's because of the, no winter thing that we have in common with Hawaii, but a lot of the places that I drive in St. Pete specifically kind of give me like that nostalgic, like feels like Hawaii vibe. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the scenery, or maybe just beach feel, but something about it gives me that feeling like,
so
this feels like.
So you're almost like home.
Yeah, it feels like Haleiwa or something, like it's real interesting.
Okay, well that's good. Well, I'm glad to have you here. I wanted to start before we get too deep into all things AI. I think it's fascinating. I want to talk a little bit high level about what's happening at the college, because I think it's putting St. Pete and Tampa Bay on the map in a different way with tech. Because I don't think the industry, as at least from where I'm at, in as an outsider, you don't think Tampa Bay tech. Right, yep. You think Silicon Valley, maybe New York. Even if you're looking at where all the jobs are for the AI companies, it's San Francisco, New York City, is what I'm seeing. But now you're telling me that we have one of the first colleges coming to USF dedicated to AI, cybersecurity, and computing.
Yeah, this is super exciting. I think of it not as kind of a reflection of the tech growth that we've had in this whole region over the past few years. There's been world-class AI and cybersecurity professors at USF for a while now, and just in Tampa, St. Pete, the amount of tech talent has been growing over the past few years. It just hasn't gotten the national recognition that matches the talent, right? And that takes time. So what happened was Arnie Bellini, former CEO of ConnectWise, donated $40 million to the university, and we're basically taking all of the computer science faculty, and we're all becoming the basis of this entirely new college within USF called the Bellini College of Artificial Intelligence, Cybersecurity, and Computing. As you mentioned, it's the first AI college in the state, one of the first in the world, really, and it's the first named AI college in the world. And right here in Tampa Bay region, it's super exciting. And again, I think it's a sign of how much growth there really is in tech ability here.
It's awesome. It's I think that's one of my, as I'm diving and becoming more and more interested over the last, I've always been interested in tech, but diving into this space, it's like, man, I wish there was more here. And then hearing this news is like incredible, because our climate, our things, all the things you were just mentioning, how it reminds you of Hawaii, like there's reasons we want to live here, and to hear like this stuff is happening and coming, we just got to know where to look, is super fascinating. So AI, what is it now? For those that are like, I keep hearing of this thing, I know ChatGPT, it answers my questions for me. I don't know how it works. Let's start there.
Yeah, what is AI?
What is AI?
It's surprisingly harder question to answer than I think most people realize. When I teach the course Intro to AI, I like to start with the definition from the textbook that we teach from, which is essentially this. It's the study and engineering of how to build four things: how to create systems that think like humans or act like humans, or think rationally or act rationally. And those are four distinct approaches to artificial intelligence. And you can think of approaches that fall under each. Thinking rationally, that would be like a calculator, right? A calculator doesn't try to...
Just pull your mic down just a little bit, because it's like, do you know, sorry to interrupt that, but do you ever watch Home Improvement?
Yeah.
Tim Allen.
Cover my face, yeah.
Well, yeah, and the guy's talking over the fence like this the whole time. Yeah, no, sorry.
How's the sound, by the way? Is it okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, folks.
Yeah,
I want to see your beautiful face. That's all.
Real time, live TV.
Yeah.
So a calculator is, it's so commonplace, we don't even think of it as artificial intelligence anymore, right? Same thing with search engines. Google search, we all use it. We've used it for years, and it actually is artificial intelligence. It's an example of natural language processing, which is the same field that gave birth to ChatGPT, actually. So those four things define AI, and AI is... It's important to note a much wider, broader field than just ChatGPT. I think now when people mention AI, they say, oh, I used AI and it did this, or, and they're pretty much just talking about either ChatGPT or Claude or one of these. But these are very narrow systems, and they don't use the wide breadth of approaches that the entire field focuses on. So it's been around for at least since the 1950s, and only now it's getting the kind of attention that... I think it deserves.
Yeah, because the different and why is that? Is it because of the large language models now that are available? It's not, you don't have to know zeros and ones in programming to access it.
Yeah,
Is that
that's a
the
huge
reason for
reason.
the mainstream, or am I
Absolutely.
missing something?
No, that's absolutely right. It's a huge reason why. In late 2002, OpenAI released ChatGPT, and ChatGPT itself
2002?
was, yeah, late 2002. It was November, December, something
Wow.
like that.
Okay.
And it was ChatGPT itself was not a significant leap technically over what was already available. We were already working on LLMs in the research field. What they did was they made it easily accessible to everyone. You didn't have to download the language model. You didn't even have to create an account. You just go into the browser and start talking to it, right? And that really just exploded the awareness of it. Every single iteration of AI never had the ability to converse naturally as this technology allows. So, like if you think about when children develop, right? Once they acquire language and the ability to speak and listen and understand words, their learning rate increases exponentially, right? And that's because language affords us this ability to exchange information at a much higher rate and and focus and form goals and form plans and all that, right? Once we gave AI the ability to do that and unleashed it to the general public, we saw a similar kind of explosion, probably for similar reasons.
So is the AI getting smarter at the moment without additional engineering?
Yes. It already is at the point where it doesn't. There are different ways that these AI systems can improve, right? There's, you can modify the architecture, which will require a human to go in there and actually change the code, give it access to more data sources. But the system is already set up so that just interacting with people, every interaction that users have with ChatGPT is typically something that can be used to help improve it. That doesn't require human intervention. That doesn't require a programmer at OpenAI to analyze the data and look at it. It's already improving.
Okay. So, and I want to go back to, because AI is essentially a pattern recognition, is it not?
The machine learning.
Isn't that how our brains are working?
Yeah. So remember, like, AI is a much bigger field than just the subset that deals with pattern recognition.
Okay.
Machine learning is the most successful subfield of that, and that you could think of that as mostly pattern recognition. Yeah. And deep learning is under that, and then large language models is a subset of that, right? So yeah, pattern recognition is a large part responsible for the success of current, most well-known AI systems, but it's not all of it, though.
Well, because I'm getting into, you said you studied philosophy, and I know you've studied the brain a little bit.
Yeah.
And you mentioned rational decision making from the AI, and is the AI all unrational? Because and can it, or does it have the ability to have emotional reasoning, right? Or is that the separation still between us and the machine? Like, I'm going straight to that,
Sure.
right? Because if you're not caught up, there's tons
deep
of other
questions.
videos on that. I need to go where I'm interested in the moment, right? We have this thing. I talk to it. It feels like a friend talking back. It has this thing for most people who are using it. We're talking to the general public on that level, right? Yeah. But is it? We don't think it's emotional, but if we can't tell, right? Is it or is it not?
Yeah. There's a classic thought experiment where something called they call it a P zombie, right? Like if you had a system that every possible interaction you can have with it is indistinguishable from what you would have with a human. You talk to it, it sounds like a human, right? You touch its skin, it feels like a human. Well, there's the Turing test. It's probably the closest, but you can think of, like, the Turing test is just chat. You can think of an extreme version of it where you're also looking at how it moves, how its eyes dart back and forth, right? And if you see all of that and you can't tell whether it's human or not just from those interactions, obviously you can take it apart and look inside, right? But we don't do that with each other typically, so that's not part of this test. So if you had that, if it was able to be indistinguishable from a human in that way, the question is it therefore pretty much human? Does it have consciousness and phenomenal consciousness and what we call qualia. Have you ever heard that term?
Yeah.
Qualia.
But
yeah.
I could use a refresher on
So
definition.
qualia is, you can generally think of it as the internal experience of what it's like to be something. So
Okay.
what is it like to be a bat?
Yeah.
We're never going to know, right?
Right.
Because we can put on bat wings and then flap around, but we're never really going to know internally what it feels like to be a bat, right? So if you have this system that looks, acts, sounds like a human in every way, is it possible that such a thing could exist but not have the internal qualia of a human? That's the philosophical question that has been, that even before the current wave of AI. I was studying this stuff in like the early 2000s, late 90s.
Yeah, I know this is tough because I want to like walk through the layers with the audience, but at the same time, my knowledge is I feel like I just got to go where I'm at. With it because these philosophical questions are probably the ones that keep me up at night the most right now. Like to be honest, John, like I go home and my girlfriend, like, she kind of makes fun of me because she's like, all you do is come home and watch AI videos. I'm like, because it's happening so fast.
Of course.
And I want to hear the thing because it's kind of pulling back of like, well, what is consciousness? Yeah. And, yeah, so where are we? So we'll go there. I don't want to go there yet.
Sure.
You said earlier, like, staying in tune with your research students and PhD students who are keeping you up to date, because if not, you'd be out monthly. Because this train is moving quick, and that's what's really hard to articulate to get people to understand. And I think for any of us to really adapt, because the minute we figure it out, there's already another thing.
Yeah.
Are we in this early, I just heard, oh man, this is going to kill me. What's the theory about computing processing? It speeds up.
Moore's Law?
Moore's Law. Okay,
Yeah.
so I just heard a thing. Tell me if you're agreeing with this, that Moore's Law is eventually, that bell curve is starting to level out because
hardware-wise.
Because transistors, right,
Yeah.
the electrons are starting to jump.
Yeah, because we're reaching the quantum limitations of how small we can make these things.
Right, and that's where we're going to get into quantum computing and all that because of that. So, if Moore's law is leveling out, does computing processing stop from a hardware sense, or does it continue to ramp up now with artificial intelligence by just adding bigger data centers?
Yeah, the way I've seen the description of Moore's law, it's still going if you slightly change the definition. So Moore's law was narrowly defined in terms of transistors, right? The number of transistors on a circuit doubles every few years or whatever it is, right? But if you define it not in terms of the hardware, but in terms of the intelligence, alternately, another formulation was processing speed of computers doubles every 4 years, right? Or is it every year? I forget. But either way,
I think it's 18 months.
18 months, yeah. But if you define it not in terms of processing speed or hardware, and you say the intelligence of these systems doubles every 18 months, then arguably we're still on that train.
So we're still on that.
Yeah, arguably. I haven't done the calculation,
Right.
and it's so difficult to actually pin down a measure of intelligence now with AI increasing so exponentially. But I think we're still on that upward trajectory.
So we're in these early stages where, I look at it in my comparison, because it's the only thing I've lived through that's similar, and people are saying it's even greater than that, would be the dot-com era, right? Early 97, 98, 99, 2000, websites coming out, never really know what's going to stick. That's changing, pretty quickly. There's, this website, but now it's gone, and it got big IPO and then bankrupt, right? No, there was nothing really there. Are we in that stage of AI, or are we past that? Are we even before that? Like from your measure, living through this and watching, being in the field, where do you think we're at? That's our only comparison, right? And analogies is something I want to talk about, because humans interact with analogies as the AI.
Absolutely, yeah.
Using analogies.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great question. So I like there's this thing called the Gartner hype cycle, hype curve, right? And it's a common pattern that I guess has been observed in the past whenever there's a life-changing technology that emerges. It's not 100% guaranteed to happen, of course. Nobody can predict the future, but it's a useful observation nevertheless. So what it says is that when a new technology comes out, you get this peak of excitement where everybody starts paying attention, everybody talks about it, and then you get this trough of disillusionment where the interest drops and faith in technology drops, and then it stays down, and then it kind of goes back up slowly to a stable level, right? I think that we are in the trough of disillusionment, or at least the beginning of that for AI. And the reason for that is we are, of course, I could be wrong, right? And it's just based on my observations.
But based on your experience.
Based on my, people, organizations are less impressed now with flashy AI demos, right? We've all seen it. We've all used ChatGPT. We've seen, we're kind of used to it now. It's still impressing us, but it not the same as when it first came out, right?
Well, did you see the Sora that just launched this week?
Yeah.
Like, I'm still...
Yeah. Oh, no, if you're paying attention to the field, you know that the technology is still increasing. But in terms of general public,
pop,
excitement about it,
yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening is organizations and individuals are starting to ask questions like, okay, but how can I actually use this in my company now, right? How can I... I used ChatGPT the other day and it hallucinated, right? And how do I make sure that I can trust this? How do I put it in banking and all that, right? And they're realizing that some of the hype solutions they were sold aren't doing the trick.
Right.
So that causes the kind of an opposite reaction where they say, okay, this stuff's all hype, and then the opportunity drops, right? But then slowly, when we reach the bottom of that trough, that's when people are going to realize, actually, you can be very reliable with this AI stuff. You just have to not buy from the companies who are selling you ChatGPT wrappers.
Right.
Right, and buy from companies that are building secure solutions that mitigate hallucination and so on. So that's where I think we are in the
because
cycle.
For those maybe the two people that are listening that don't understand, because I've seen that I've had people pitch me the AI wrappers.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, you don't realize how deep in the trough I am. You're not pulling the blanket over me, right?
This, yeah.
Yeah, I just know the questions to ask, and when you tell me you got your team behind you, and I'm like, well, what's your team really working on? You don't got an answer. I'm like, gotcha. So some people are just using and building GPTs or things around the other LLMs that are out there, right?
Even the good AI companies are doing that, but it's about how much value they can add to it, right? Like, do they actually build guardrails that are well designed that can mitigate hallucination, right? Do they add the additional features that make it useful to practitioners in the field they're trying to market to, things like that?
Because that's the point, right? That's probably the bigger business model of companies like OpenAI and Perplexity, and that is their API backend plugin, right, for others to use
OpenAI, they're creating the utility. They're creating the basic
access
service.
to. And now you got to, as then computer engineer, build the highway that you want the cars to stay in.
Yep.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, so back to my question of the speed and where we're at in history. So you think we're in this trough from a corporation standpoint of how do I integrate this new application, and how's it going to how's it going to help me in my business? I agree with that. I can see that because there was a lot of flash, and yes, it's now saved me time on my emails, and I don't have to think about my social media posts or what, and it can help analyze this data, but maybe it messed up or whatever, right? So it's not, still got a analogy I heard was 20-60-20. 20% is what you put in, 60% the AI does the work, 20% is the rehumanization of what comes out. I thought that was an interesting formula. Do you think that's accurate, or?
Yeah, sounds about right. I haven't heard that before, but I think for most cases it sounds about right.
Right. It's like we're not at the point to where we can like let our hands completely off the wheel.
Yeah.
That's where you got to put that 20% back on and like review it. You're not going to just send it out without not, and so you can quickly see when people do. So in the research field, you're saying, hey, if I'm not with my PhD students, I'm getting left behind within 30 days.
Yeah.
What have you been seeing in the lab and that things are working on? Because you said, okay, this language model that you're saying, that's only a percentage of the whole scope. So what's behind the curtain, John?
Yeah. It's honestly not exciting from a huge breakthrough point of view, but that's how science works.
Yeah,
right?
no, but
You know,
I'm pumped up. I want to know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, for example, one problem that's been plaguing us is reliably reading tables in PDFs, right? Because you know, for my company, for example, we do contract review for AI, right? And often these contracts will just be a whole bunch of complex tables, sometimes multi-page tables, and they've got rotated columns and merged cells and fancy fonts, right? And actually reliably extracting information from that so that you can get the AI to understand it and reason over it properly. A lot trickier than you might think, right? It's not as simple as throwing in ChatGPT. So there's work on the absolute cutting edge of AI, like conference publications that have come out within the past week, for example, that are making, you know, they make just incremental progress, right? Like, hey, we can do 1% better on this data set, and that's
So the
how
ability of
science works.
like observing, because you're uploading a PDF that's and AI is looking at it like a human looking at it with its eyes, and what is it seeing?
It's not looking at it like a human.
Okay,
with its
great.
eyes.
So this is why you're here,
That's
John.
the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so yeah, it depends on how you process it, right? Like if you just throw it into OCR, then it might be able to extract the words from the table properly.
What's OCR?
Optical character recognition. So it's almost this. It's basically the standard approach for how we take like an image or a PDF that's encoded as an image and turn it into words, turn it into text, right? You just take OCR and extract all the text that's in an image or a screenshot of a table. You might lose the formatting information, like where the words are in relation to each other physically. And you absolutely need that information for processing a table, right? So you could then ask something like ChatGPT to process it as an image, but the problem is that the image processing models are much weaker in how they understand text. You've probably seen this, like if you generate a picture and
With
ask
text
it
in it. Oh, it's
with
terrible.
text, yeah, typos, and that's because it's a fundamentally different type of generation that's going on than the standard GPT LLM. So yeah, you get this mixed technique, and the AI by itself doesn't necessarily know which combination of techniques to use when it's processing the PDF, and so you know it's these little fine-tune you know, nitpicky things that, because we want to make it just so if you throw a contract into an AI, it can perfectly extract the information that you need out of it, right? But the AI is not quite there yet, and we're seeing a lot of exciting progress.
Okay, but those little incremental changes are how we make big leap, right? Because everyone goes, like
right.
you said, we're in the trough. Everyone goes to sleep, isn't looking at it. They come back and look at it and go, "Oh wow, look at that!" And you're like, "Did you realize all the work we had to do to get there?"
And that's exactly what ChatGPT was, right?
Yeah.
Like we've large language models have existed for probably a decade or more at this point,
Yeah,
right?
but they
We had-
became popular in the last 3-4 years.
yeah, after ChatGPT came out.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
because, and it was all incremental advances that took us there.
So okay, so that's that. And then I go to, okay, well, Meta just came out with their glasses, right? And we're having more visualization stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
Knowing that the industry's saying, hey, just as the internet now, your stove's connected to the internet, your light switches are connected to the internet, your car's connected to the internet.
Yeah.
Everything will have AI built into it, including the glasses that are on your face. I'm getting to a futuristic, knowing what you know, John, how quickly do you think it is that we're ramping up towards that world where everything around us is AI?
Yeah, there's going to be a cultural shift first. It's a value shift that's probably preventing that a lot. But if you think of the transformation that cell phones have brought, right? Like and cell phones and social media. I mean, 20 years ago, the thought of you know, sharing every detail about your life is you know, people wouldn't have done it back then, right? It's Truman Show. You know, you watch Truman Show now, and people are like, "Yeah, that seems
what we're doing.
That's cool. Let's do that."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
20 years ago, you know, that was out of the question. Now, because social media and cell phones everywhere has kind of shifted our expectations of privacy, and what should be kept secret, and you know. we have what we have now. I expect something similar will happen with AI. We'll have to kind of just expect that AI is in everything that we use and interact with. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I can't see the world not changing.
No, it definitely will. It definitely will. So on that sense, it was a good segue into security, right? Because it's not just AI. There's cybersecurity now that's at the more important. It's always been important, but more important than ever. And I feel like there's a global race in this cybersecurity world because our nations are reliant on everything that's happening online. What's your thoughts on where cybersecurity is at the moment?
Yeah, it's inseparable from AI. There's a reason that the name of the college is AI, cybersecurity, and computing. AI and cybersecurity absolutely need each other. You got AI out there, but if you don't know how to make it secure, to make it so that people can't trick it into giving away information it's not supposed to, then you might as well not have it, right? And same thing for cybersecurity. We are able to make systems so much safer because we can use AI to improve cybersecurity.
So it's a cycle. They're in cohesion with each other.
They absolutely are, yeah. And they can't exist without the other.
So are there been any latest break? I'm not as verse or knowledgeable in the cybersecurity space. I know I had a friend who showed me, he worked for a cybersecurity company, showed me what an attack looks like, which essentially looks like a lightning storm, right? In the back end of all the things that are happening, which was, I didn't even understand what I was looking at. It just looked like a mess on a computer screen.
Right.
What's the latest on where you're attuned to where we're at in cybersecurity, and what's the most recent breakthrough, I guess?
Yeah, there's quite a bit going on in that field. Cybersecurity is less my expertise. We have a whole bunch of world-class cybersecurity faculty at USF, and I know some of them are working on things like post-quantum cryptography. So, there's this huge worry that when we get quantum computers, it's going to break our encryption algorithms and all that. So we got people that are working on the question of how can we ensure safety and encryption after that happens.
Do you know of, and is like the banking system right now using any type of quantum security on their?
That I don't know, but there are people that are actively planning for how you can keep security after we get quantum computing.
It seems like that's a dangerous place that we're in with that.
Could be, yeah.
It's one of my biggest fears.
Yeah, I think that there are some good safeguards in place, and I think that the research in post-quantum cryptography is advancing pretty nicely so that, it's not like we're going to be completely caught off guard.
Yeah, so for those, because I got to remember, we got people listening, they're like, what the hell are you talking about?
Sure.
So my understanding, John, please correct me where I trip up, but in the world right now, we are in a computing world that processes zeros and ones. And some of our hardest cryptography could take thousands of years, as I understand it, to break the code. Quantum computing has the potential, because it processes everything in between zeros and ones simultaneously at the same time using qubits, that it could break these codes within minutes. And personally, I think that's more scary than any other type of attack that we could take from another nation. Because let's say another country figures out quantum computing and hacking before we do, and you open your bank account and there's no money in there, or all the lights go off, and your phone doesn't work, and you have no idea how to get it back on.
Yeah.
That is the most realistic, scary thing that I think that could happen to us. And so this thing of like, well, once we get it, then we'll put it, like, no, that's too late, dude. Because once you got that figured out, it's like once you figure out how to make the atomic bomb, you're going to go use it.
Sure, yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong. What's your industry?
Yeah.
I mean, from the little bit, like, you're obviously in that world a little bit. How much is the industry? It sounds like they are from a security standpoint.
They are preparing for it, yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know for sure.
We could already have it. We don't let anyone know because the best line of security is the security you don't know about.
Yeah, that's right. The technology is there. There are post-quantum protections in place. And if I had to bet, I don't have insider information on this, but if I had to bet, the biggest banks already have, some kind of safeguard already for that
Yeah,
day.
I would think they have to, because you just don't know when it's coming. It could be
It
tomorrow.
It's too much of a risk to not, right?
Yeah.
Like, quantum computing, we know it's not like some guy in a cave, somewhere is just going to come up with it and then come up with a fully functional, 1,000 megabyte qubit computer. But we know which companies are working on quantum computing. We know how many qubits they have in their systems, and we can kind of keep track of that and prepare, right? But just in case it progresses faster than we thought it would, I'm sure there's safeguards already.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. It's just something where I'm like, as I go down that rabbit hole, that's a scary one.
Yeah.
Of what that looks like. So, the buzz at the moment, every YouTube headline at the moment, AGI.
Yeah.
Where, from your standpoint of being with your research students, knowing what's going on, your vision, your perception, where are we at with that, and what does AGI mean?
Yeah. It's usually so it stands for artificial general intelligence, and it's usually a term that is used to distinguish between AI that basically can do everything a human can, right? So instead of artificial intelligence, which at least connotationally you can think of as something that can do a very narrow task, right? Translate language or chat with you or something like that. General intelligence is completely human level. It can do everything a person can. There's also ASI, artificial superintelligence, which is AI that's beyond human ability. But that's a whole discussion we can get into, whether that's actually possible. So AGI, I think it's clear we're not at AGI currently, right? If you go to even the best large language model system and interact with it, there's always some way you can trip it up in a way that a human wouldn't fall for, right? On the other hand, there are things that a system like ChatGPT can do that people can't, right? Just the breadth of knowledge that it has is already far beyond what any individual can do. But that's not surprising. AI has already crossed that point. The calculator can do calculations that a human being cannot, right? So I'm not too worried about that. As far as when we'll actually reach artificial general intelligence, I'm more optimistic than I think a lot of my colleagues in the academic AI field. Some of them are pessimistic about it, and they say, well, it's never going to happen with the current wave of AI, and I'm a little more like, I think it's pretty plausible to say that 5 years is a reasonable time frame.
There's people in your field that say never, because never is a strong word. There
absolutely are. Yeah.
I mean, that seems bonkers, right? Because if you would have taken this iPad back 100 years ago and told them, they'd be like, oh, never thought that would be possible.
Yeah, there's classic books in our field like with the titles "What Computers Can Never Be," and and that book already is full of examples that computers already can.
Yeah, that just seems silly to say never.
Yeah,
because what's a 500 years look like from now?
Yeah, there's probably a historical reason for it. In around the 80s, we got all this excitement about neural networks, and we thought, oh, this is it. This is how we're gonna reach human level intelligence, and it did make some advancements in the field, but and so funding got thrown at it, and people invested in it. A whole bunch of startups emerged. Right, it's 1980s startups are very different from what it is now.
Yeah.
Government funding, all of that, and then it just didn't materialize, right? It just didn't reach what it promised to. And that's because the hardware wasn't there yet. We didn't have the data sets available. We didn't have the internet to have massive data, right? And so it kind of fizzled out, and it led to a negative reaction where people were like, why did we invest all this money in this? We're never investing in AI again. Yeah. And it led to a period that is known as the AI winter, when there was no funding available for AI. You couldn't, if you were an academic researching it, you would almost laughed at, right? And I think that a lot of the people now who are saying that we're never going to reach AGI are still kind of traumatized from that.
So they just are protecting them. But that never is just too strong of a word.
I think it is
to say never. Do you think that is there any computing that's using the neural networks and AI? Are they combining? Is that how AI is learning now, or no?
The large language model, which is the core of how ChatGPT works. And also the stable diffusion models that are at the core of how image generators and video generators work, right? Those are all variants of neural networks.
So NLP, since we're talking in that space, I know NLP as neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
You know it as natural language processing.
Right.
Different, but same, kind of, no?
Yeah. Completely different fields.
Different fields,
just
but
similar
I think,
acronyms.
Yeah, similar, but okay, so what's the difference for you?
Natural language processing is all about, natural language, right?
Yep.
It's the field where you study how to understand, generate, and process text, the kind of natural text that humans use to communicate with each other, right? Neurolinguistic programming is this field that I don't know. It kind of tries to figure out the patterns that are used to, I've seen some pseudoscience-y things come out of it. Like if you ask someone what color their favorite dog was and look at which direction their eyes move in, then you can tell how they access their memories.
That's a little bit. I know a little bit of NLP from the stance of we all go back and we have our way our brain works. Neurons were connected mostly between the ages 0 and 7, right? So there's some programming that happened there, and from those programmings we have our core beliefs that thoughts come from, and from those thoughts we have feelings, and feelings generate actions, and actions generate results that come into this reality, right?
Sure.
So I can see that as the same way of if we reverse that, it's the words that we hear and our association with those words and what those words mean to us that goes into our programming and then our core beliefs and what we think into a consciousness. So I get that they're different, but I look at it as you're saying, well, how do we process words? And we're processing words based on the belief that you and I agreed upon years ago on what these sounds mean.
Yeah, but natural language processing does not necessarily tie to how humans do things.
Okay,
right.
Teach me.
Neurolinguistic programming is trying to find these regularities that might have emerged in the, maybe the developmental or the historical relationship between how we associated knowledge with language and things like that.
Got it. Okay, so natural language processing.
Yeah. Well, so and neurolinguistic programming tries to see, okay, based on those connections, can we identify regularities that can be used maybe to predict how someone thinks or identify how their eye movements, what do they tell us about what parts of their memories they're accessing, right? Whether those connections actually exist, I think is kind of fuzzy, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a lot of solid evidence behind it. Natural language processing, so it is maybe inspired by how humans naturally use language, but we can study natural language processing, and there are entire subfields of it that don't even pay attention to the brain anymore, right? It doesn't even matter how the human brain works because we have ways of processing language using these systems that are just computational graphs rather than trying to model how actual human biological neurons work.
How up to date are you on what Neuralink is doing?
I know the headlines.
Okay. About, I don't know, maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago, maybe 8 weeks now, there was a fascinating update that came out straight from the company. And it wasn't put Elon aside because Elon was on stage for 5 minutes and then it was all his engineers at the company that were describing where they're at. Whoa. Bonkers.
Yeah.
Bonkers. And I looked at it as that this, just as you said earlier, that AI and cybersecurity are helping each other. Yeah. I see learning and mapping the brain at a neuron level is then helping AI learn how the brain processes, right? Because I don't know, are we still considering the brain a great processor over.
Yeah, there's still things the human brain can do that we haven't been able to match in artificial intelligence.
I'll send you this video because it's all the video was really put out to attract talent. So anyone who can keep up with what they were saying, that's what it was for. But they're mapping individual neurons in the brain
to concepts and things like that.
Yeah, and then you can imagine they're throwing that in their AI and then their AI learn of what they just learned about the brain and how that works. So that was like, I'm like, that is like a cheat code.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen some of this work where, you can actually train the algorithm so that it learns how to recognize the patterns of activations in the brain. And it essentially that could lead to something where you just put a thing on your head and it can map out what you're thinking, right? Which, it sounds scary and sci-fi, right? But like any technology of this sort, there are really, really positive uses of that. For example, if you lose your ability to speak, throat cancer or something like that, or people that have have other aphasias.
I mean, the people that are quadriplegic are being able to
they can talk,
communicate, program, design things, and do things, play video games with each other, only using their consciousness.
Yeah,
which is crazy because it's not like just like regular, like they're playing Call of Duty.
Yeah,
using their mind.
The idea that if you maybe your arms are paralyzed, but then you can put something on your head that allows you to control a mechanical arm just as well as you could, an actual biological arm. That's amazingly promising, right? And just shows that there's so much good that can come out of this technology if we fund the research and allow it to continue.
Yeah. So where is there a funding lack now, if any? Or is it like because of where we're at? Is there just like money's just flowing into this space?
NSF.
Do we have the opposite problem, or
we have a big funding problem in the United States for basically science funding is completely under attack right now, right? I'm sure you've heard the news, right? And it doesn't help that there's the government shutdown now. We just got a message from the National Science Foundation, which funds a large percentage of every technological advance you've ever benefited from, right? They had to send out an email yesterday that said, hey, our thing expired. We don't have any funding, so we're not going to respond to emails. We're not going to be able to give out any funding that we awarded. It completely pauses research programs all over the country.
So let's put the politics aside on that, right? Because I think government shutdowns have happened. And they'll come back, right? The lights go off for half a second. They're back on in a blip of history if we're looking over time. Yeah. But is more research happening at an academic level? And then I want to go into how are the colleges adapting to the use of AI as a students?
Sure. Yeah.
Are companies like Meta, like OpenAI, like Google, taking it upon themselves to develop, and because they have their own R&D, how reliant are those companies? Let's start there first. Are they dependent upon outside academics?
Completely.
They are dependent.
Yeah, completely. Every single one of these advances, large language models, stable diffusion for image generation, all of the quantum computing stuff, all of that has come from universities. What typically happens is the model is set up where the universities carry out research, and it's usually government funded. And the reason for that is because it's not immediately return on investment, right? It's not the kind of research that will, at the end of the year, you have a product you can sell, right? It's just basic discovery and kind of experimentation. And that's why the government funding model works so well for it. All of this stuff has come out of it, large language models, right? And then when the technology reaches a certain maturity level, then they can form a company, and then that stuff sort of gets transferred, right? And it's usually the professors that or the grad students that were involved in that then help with that commercialization. And then that's when OpenAI takes over and then sells it, right? And then they'll continue to do the research. Like OpenAI is continuing to try to advance it, but it's very directed at a profit motive, right? It's not necessarily interested in how can we make the technology more powerful. It's how can we make this more of a moneymaker.
Right, and then it's not like they're going to want to share their advancements with others, which lets it advance faster.
Which absolutely happened with this. Every advancement OpenAI has made over the past 3 years completely shut off to the rest of the world, right? Nobody knows.
And are they the lead? Do you think, based on your experience with other LLMs, Claude, I don't know, name all the ones that are Gemini,
Yeah.
Grok. What am I missing?
Yeah. Those are the major ones, yeah.
I think like the Kleenex, right, it's now the household name.
Yeah.
Is OpenAI the quote unquote best model at the moment? And do you think that it can sustain that position in the market?
Oh, yeah. So the first question, ChatGPT is probably the most recognizable name, right? That's the closest to Kleenex that we have in the field. It's not the best. I think of it as the best general starting point. So if you have a question or you want to do a task, create a spreadsheet, generate an image, go to ChatGPT first, and it'll probably do it, right? It's not going to be the best at that task, but it's got the widest range of possible things, right? You got Perplexity, which is really good for searches. I use it for whenever I'm doing a deep, dive into some research question I want the answer to, right? Which, again, ChatGPT can do, but I think Perplexity does it just a little better. So whether it can sustain that position, that is not something that I would bet on. These things change so quickly. Right now they have a huge awareness gap and probably a little bit more of a data moat, meaning that they have access to more customer usage data they can use to train their models. But I don't think it's so large that it can't be overcome. They just make a couple mistakes like Google did with their early versions of Gemini. They could lose their lead.
They could fall
very
off quickly,
easily.
right?
Yeah.
Man, it's crazy how many questions I get out of this, John. So I'm trying to keep my own thoughts organized. Okay, so they could trip quick. We're still in an early stage of like they could become Yahoo.
Oh yeah. Oh,
right?
easily.
Because Yahoo was the dominant player before
Yeah.
Google, and now who goes to Yahoo to search something?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Are they even still around?
yeah,
I
yeah. I,
don't
have
know.
no, I think they are, but they made Mark Cuban rich, and then who knows what happened. Yeah. But I find it fascinating that we had a company, and this is where the startup field in tech is so fascinating, like OpenAI. That you didn't hear, at least as a consumer, you didn't hear of OpenAI in 2019.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't even on something you were thinking about.
Nowhere near as well known.
Versus Google, Apple, and now and Google. Like to me, Gemini kind of like it's getting better, but like you don't think.
Yeah, it's
Google.
not the first.
And I'm looking at this like, how did they miss that?
We're going to be studying that one for a long time because the LLM.
Aren't they using all the data that Google has?
Well, the creators of the LLM were Google, essentially Google employees,
Yeah.
right? So how were they not the first ones to release ChatGPT and even after ChatGPT came out, I mean, the Google researchers, they've got some of the most brilliant collection of PhDs in the world working for them. They could have just said, all right, everybody drop what you're doing, spend a couple days on this, and they would have completely created something to blow OpenAI out of the water.
Do you think they got to the point where they said, we're too big to fail?
That's a good question. I never got that vibe from the way Google puts out products. They're not.
They
they're
normally
not
throw paint at the wall
around
and
that
see
way.
what sticks a little bit.
Yeah, they've normally been the ones that just kind of, on a whim, let's throw out this new product and see what happens, right? And then they kill products just like that, right?
Yeah.
So why didn't they do that with ChatGPT?
Their revenue model is struggling.
Yeah.
If they didn't have YouTube, right?
I don't get it. I don't know why they dropped the ball so hard.
Yeah, you're right. That'll be an interesting research study.
Yeah.
I'm also fascinated by Apple right now. In the fact that I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
What have you been doing? Like the new iPhone is not impressive. Right? You came out with this AI, you had this marketing thing of like AI iPhone. Siri still sucks.
Yeah.
She just came on. She's listening.
She doesn't like you said that. Yeah, and it's got this thing where you kind of feel like, oh, are they just out of ideas, right? Like,
I think they're too like they've gotten to this point. And my perception is that everything has to come out so neat and polished and perfect,
right.
that it's slacking in their innovation, at least to what they're putting out to the consumer to collect data, right, of what's going on. And I wonder if the visions of Jobs has ran out.
Yeah.
You know, like he had vision so far, but it stopped. Like I found an old interview. Jobs was saying we bought Siri because of its artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. Siri has sucked for a long time.
Yeah.
So that department has not advanced. Like my advanced voice on chat should be what Siri is, and that should have happened years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard it. I've heard that hypothesis too. That before Steve Jobs passed, that he had a vision for the next 10 years of innovations, and basically, Tim Cook or Tim Apple is just basically executing that for the next 10 years, right? And then now is kind of like he doesn't know what to do next.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's a plausible hypothesis.
Well, yeah, because he was Jobs. I mean, I'm sure you read his book.
Yeah,
by Isaac Walton.
Yeah.
Visionary, like unbelievable, like human to human, had his things, but all the greats did. Yeah. And his vision for shaping the world was beyond. He was talking in the 80s about being able to create a laptop that would fit in an envelope. And you can imagine what that felt like that moment he got to come out on stage and present the notebook. And him knowing that we purchased Siri as an AI company, and then to see what that is now, like I'm sure he's like rolling over in his grave.
Yeah.
Right. Because I can see Apple has, watching what Meta just did with their glasses is fascinating to me. Wrist thing comes on, I can control this interface on this glasses that you can't see. Mm-hmm. And where I'm looking, I'm wearing an Apple Watch right now. That band could be in this band. Right, they got this. They came out with this big clunky Apple Vision Pro. Which where is that useful in everyday practice?
Yeah.
But it's got it's weird. So I'm like, I wonder if they're just playing too safe. And it's crazy because I'm an Apple guy. I'm so attached to their ecosystem, but they're at this I think now there could be if they don't figure it out quick.
Yeah.
They could lose market share.
Yeah. They've still got clearly the hardware lead, in the laptop and home desktop. I use Mac, right? Like
I'm not knocking.
Products, right?
I'm still a huge Apple guy, but I'm just like, how? I know you're always a little behind. Yeah, but it's not like here's the greatest camera in my iPhone, and the new iPhone's not even thinner; it's thicker.
I think maybe we are. Maybe we are judging them too harshly because IBM kind of dropped the ball similarly, right? Like in 2013-ish, when they won when they won Jeopardy with IBM Watson, right? I had a front row seat to that because
really?
Yeah, the guy David Ferrucci, who was the lead of the IBM Watson team, he got his PhD under Summer Bringshaw, my PhD advisor, and that was when I was a grad student there.
That's incredible.
We had this, and then Yorktown's IBM's Yorktown campus, not too far from RPI, so we got to visit the Watson team, and we actually got to celebrate with them live when the victory happened in Jeopardy. So it was an exciting time, and at that point, IBM could be said to be the leader in natural language processing and in AI. They had the technology.
What year was that?
Right? 2013.
Okay.
They could be said to they had the marketing momentum behind them, right? Mm-hmm. And if you went to any of the discussions in the back rooms about what to do next, it was never okay, how can we keep the technology moving on? It was always, now how do we get money out of this, right? And they forced it upon doctors. They had this IBM Watson diagnosis thing, and doctors hated it. They said, this thing sucks. This thing does not work. But IBM's focus was just, give me the money right? And there was no focus on, let's open up the technology to researchers and continue the innovation that got us to where we are, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, do you think of IBM Watson when you think of AI now? Nobody does,
No.
right? They completely dropped the ball.
Yeah.
They were too greedy.
So your comment about you think we're judging Apple too harshly?
Maybe, I don't know, but so Apple's tricky because, I mean, they have the money to just spend $1 billion on research and say, you guys don't have to be profit focused. You can just advance the tech. But maybe they are doing it. Maybe they do have.
But I think that's probably
research
part of the problem.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. If one thing I took out of Jobs' book, which was fascinating, when he made the Macintosh was not made in Apple's headquarters. It was in an outside office, away from the culture of the corporate thing, right? So people could dress how they want, show up how they want, do what they want, talk about what they wanted.
Ideas flowing, yeah.
The innovation was there. There wasn't worried about keeping my job or this, that, or the other, right? It was like a totally off the scene world, and boom, Macintosh is born. And so, not to say that they're not doing that, like, because like I can imagine they would be following the principles of Jobs himself, right?
Yep.
But I wonder how much there is still that of culture of like, I got my job at Apple. I got to play it safe a little bit. Like, are the guardrails off completely? Of if you don't want to wear shoes to the office and you don't do it, like you know what I mean? Like, go do what you got to do to be creative.
Yeah. Could be, right? Because if you're, if you have to answer to the shareholders, right, and you gotta make, you can't say, all right, we're gonna take a couple quarters where we don't have any profits, we just reinvested into research and all that. That's you're not gonna be CEO for much longer, right? But because you got to be able to deliver profits and growth every single quarter, right? But I think so. Like the example of Amazon when oh my God, what's his name?
Jeff Bezos?
Yeah, Jeff Bezos was in charge. There's that famous interview where he was on Jay Leno and he was laughed at, right? Because they said,
"Oh yeah, you're unprofitable," and he was, and he thought it was hilarious too.
He's like, "Yeah, we're not making any profit," but he was right, man. They came up with like cloud computing largely exists because of Amazon's
AWS,
innovations. Yeah, and all of that happened because he said, we're not going to keep our profits. We're not going to, let's reinvest it into research.
He's laughing all the way to the bank now.
Oh, yeah, he made the right choice.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I just like watching like the story. I'm fat. Like to me, like, of course sports are entertaining, but I love watching what these companies are doing.
Yeah.
And looking at the tech and what's coming. And I like like my degree's in entrepreneurship and innovation management. So I'm like fascinated with the cycle of innovation, and it probably started. I remember I had a Razor flip phone. You remember that? and I remember reading the news on that Razor about Apple's new release announcement of iPhone. And I remember running home to watch the video of Steve Jobs pulling that out of his pocket and talking about phone, internet, iPod, all three devices in one, right?
Oh,
and we don't use a stylus, we use our finger. And that demonstration was revolutionary. I wrote a paper on it. I was in middle school.
Yeah.
And that probably started that kick of like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so it's so funny to watch these new players enter the space and scratch your head at, well, how comes you're not? It didn't come from these companies.
Yeah. He knew how to present it too. Like a lot of people don't realize that, just having good technology alone, that's not going to be enough, right? Like you got to know how to sell it. You got to know how to present it.
Not to keep going on Jobs, we can switch off that. But the one thing that I was taking from him, even as a presenter, as someone who stands in front of the room, to your point, it was the presenting and selling, but it was never about the tech. It was always about what do our people want to do
with it,
right?
That's
like
right.
We have people who are innovative, creative, and what tools do they need, right? He never sold that we're the fastest computer or this, that. He never sold features. He sold what could you make? How did you think? How did you feel when you used this product? So that's always what Apple's been about. But I think they're losing their touch a little.
Yeah.
Just unless in the next 12 to 18 months they come out, because my prediction is that out of 10 people, 3 of them, let's say they're all iPhone users, 3 of them won't be carrying an iPhone in the next 24 to 36 months. That there'll be another device. Maybe they have the phone in their pocket, but just like with the glasses, like I think there'll be another type of device. I don't have it. It's crazy enough. I should have it on me today. I'm sure you've seen the little AI devices everyone's wearing to record their conversations,
the audio,
right? And to analyze. Like, fascinating concept.
Yeah.
What happens, John, when my glasses I'm wearing I do wear contacts, so I would need them. Is also interviewing, like recording you and everything, and analyzing all the things that happened.
Yeah.
And a bubble pops up and there's a message. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I think the phone is our reach into information, and the latency in time by new devices will be shrinking that. Did you see that Joan Ivey, who was one like Jobs' top
Ives,
designer, is at OpenAI?
Yeah. Yeah, and then they had that big announcement, right? Did that happen already?
What
They're
was
going
the
to have some
announcement?
kind of big announcement
look
with
it
Johnny Ives. I lost track of that, but
I know he's there, but I haven't heard anything about a physical product.
yeah.
But you know he's over there
That's
designing.
what they speculated, yeah.
Oh, well, he's the physical product genius.
Yeah, he's the guy, yeah.
And so maybe that's why, I mean, that's, I know now we're getting into a little like news headlines, but I think you got one of the top physical product designers of our generation at OpenAI. They're making something.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can think about what it could be. Going back to what we mentioned earlier about the shift in sort of societal norms and expectations that we're going to see with AI. I think you brought a perfect example, the glasses, right? Like if I walk into a room with, big bulky glasses that are making a humming sound, and some people are going to be like, "What are you doing? Like, do you have my permission to record me and stuff like that?"
Right.
3 years from now, that's going to be the expectation, right?
Well, and back to Google. Google was there in early, what was that, like 2012 with Google Glass?
Yeah.
Tried and failed miserably.
Yeah, I don't think that was their fault. I think they've made a noble effort there. I think just the world wasn't ready.
World wasn't ready, and they were it's just you got to applaud Zucks for pairing up with Ray-Ban. Why try to make something that is stylish on your face when there's already people who do that? Just combine the tech. Like that was such a genius move.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited about this one. I wanted Google Glass to succeed. I thought
I did too. I thought it was neat at the time.
Yeah, the augmented reality idea. I want my windshield to be augmented reality, right? I want to be able to drive down the road. I got my navigation going. Just imagine like if I have to make a turn here, to have a little arrow pointing to the road, that knows. Or even like if I'm driving and there's too much sun coming from some direction, the window would automatically block it, right? Just that technology exists. We can make that.
Yeah.
But
just doing it at scale now.
Yeah.
Right?
Managing expectations, there's probably laws that have to be adjusted to accommodate for that, but I want that.
So let's go now in the world. How is the college adapting to AI, right? Because I can imagine that they are frantic. Because what does education mean now? What are we what are we teaching? Because information is at my fingertips. Just as they used to say, you're not always going to have a calculator on you. Well, joke's on you, math teacher, because I do. Yeah. Right. Like, so what do you? Yeah. How are you being in the education space and being in the AI department? How's the rest of the university and universities combating or adapting to AI?
Yeah. I think it's forcing us to remember what the purpose of a university is in the first place. Sometimes we forget. But the purpose of education has always had multiple functions. Number one, there is a little bit of fact memorization, right? But it's not in the sense where you got to memorize these facts because you'll never be able to access them. It's in the sense of you got to memorize these facts because it helps you embed them deep in the way you think, right? Like, to be able to recall that the Constitution is a thing can be useful if you need to protect your rights and look it up, right? If you don't even know the Constitution exists, then what are you going to look it up on Google? And so you don't need to memorize every word of the Constitution, but kind of knowing at an intuitive level what's in it, is beneficial. So there is a memorization component, but there's also the need to stretch your comfort zone, right? Like I could just look up everything on ChatGPT. I don't have to think about very much anymore. But I force myself to do it anyway because I don't want to become completely dependent on this external technology, right? I want to be able to question things still and you know how to, if I hear someone tell me something and I want to still have that intuition for it, that doesn't seem quite right. Let me look at the facts before I actually believe it. Let me think through it before I actually believe it. These are skills. Critical thinking is the term that usually gets thrown around. These are the skills that we try to make sure you acquire in university. And I don't think that changes. That doesn't change with AI. The methods for teaching definitely change with AI. Anybody who is still trying to is still trying to get students to write essays like we did 10 years ago. That's not a thing anymore. It's not going to happen, right? Which is unfortunate because writing requires a kind of thinking that you just can't get from writing. Sitting down to write a long essay, the kind of thinking and reasoning you have to do for that, you're not going to get from writing tweets, right?
Right.
From writing short form things.
Or for prompting and then getting it, right? And then even reading it isn't the same of putting the string of words together.
And even if you can write better essays with prompting and doing that, the thinking process is not the same as you get from writing a traditional essay.
But does it need to be? I guess that comes into the question.
Yeah,
right?
it's a fair question.
Does it need to be? And I'm curious I think the MIT study about critical thinking is pretty fascinating. I also think I haven't dove into. Have you dove into that research?
I have,
yeah. What was their hypothesis? How did they measure it? And over what length of time?
They essentially wanted to see whether what the effect of using an AI tool was on essay writing, right? And so what they did was...
essay writing was the measurement of critical thinking that they used?
It was the main task, yeah. It was kind of like the guiding task.
Yeah.
They also measured, I think, fMRI activation levels, so like a brain scan, basically,
okay.
right? And one of their main findings was if you had a group and you have them write an essay with no tools, right? No search engine, no AI. And then later you give them access to AI tools, right? They feel like they own the essay. They feel like it's theirs, it's their thoughts, right? They remember, they can answer questions about it. But if you went the other way around, you have them have access to GPT right away, and then you ask them, how much you feel like you own the essay, or even ask them questions about the essay. They're not able to answer it, and the fMRI patterns are different as well. It's more engaged in the group that has the essay that doesn't have ChatGPT and then can use it later, right? So it's kind of an intuitive result, I think. I think we would all agree that, if I have ChatGPT help me write the essay, then it's not really me that wrote it, right? But I think it just goes to show that the thinking process, that the parts of the brain that it exercises is completely different.
Can AI have original thought?
Yes. Yeah, unquestionably. Remember earlier we were talking about some of the older mentors in my field who argue that no, it can't. There's a test called the Lovelace test, LOVELACE, named after Ada Lovelace, where it said that can an artificially intelligent system truly create something that surprises its creator, right? Like if I write a piece of code and then that piece of code, when it's executed, it produces an output that I didn't expect, then it passes the Lovelace test, right? And I think clearly modern AI has already done that. There's no way any human on Earth could anticipate the broad range of possible outputs that ChatGPT can produce. So it's already passed that test.
So that goes back. So if it's creating its own original thought, then it's not our thought, and that's where we're losing claim to fame of the thought.
Yeah. The Copyright Office, the U.S. Copyright Office, they won't copyright the direct outputs of an AI. You can copyright. This is one of those things that's changing quickly, but you can copyright the prompt you used to create the output,
Wow,
but you can't copyright the output itself.
But isn't the output also then, depending, unless it's like a brand new GPT that doesn't have any prior cognitive or information, right? Because like if I prompted my AI, it's going off of previous conversations, unless I had a new I guess that's right? If you're in a new private conversation,
there's always something that it's drawing from.
Yeah.
But there is a little bit of stochasticity in the generation process itself. So you put in a prompt and you run it 2 times, you might get 2 completely different outputs. And because of that lack of definition, that lack of determinism, there is something that looks like creative reasoning happening on the AI side. And because of that, you can't claim to be the sole creator of what comes out of it.
Whoa. That's really crazy to think about. So it is. I don't know that I fully process the idea of original thought coming from AI. I just look at it as like piecing things together of other ideas.
Yeah. I think it depends on how you define what makes thought original, right? So if I have a random number generator and I say come up with a random number, and then it says 7,252,000, right? And I say, yeah, that wasn't the number I was thinking of, and then would you call that creative thought? Most people wouldn't, right? They'd say, no, it's not a number that I anticipated, but it is a number, which is what I anticipated doing. And so how much further can we take that with ChatGPT, right? If I say write an essay and it writes an essay, I might say, yeah, I can't be surprised by this. I told it to write an essay and that's what it wrote. But the content of that essay might be something that I completely didn't anticipate, just as the actual number was not something that I anticipated.
Yeah, I get that. So going back to original thought. So now so that goes into, I got another skew of questions hitting me. I don't know how, it's always interesting to watch thoughts show up, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then thinking about, well, how's the computer doing it? You doing all right, Megan? All right, just good. Just making sure you're comfy over there. Megan's also our tech trainer, so hopefully she's loving this. Okay, so original thought coming from AI is thing. Okay, so does AI become conscious?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. Okay. I think I lean more towards epiphenomenalism with consciousness. So
I don't know what that word means, so educate me.
So in the philosophy of mind, there are a couple of prominent views on what consciousness actually is and when we've crossed that line into consciousness, right? I like the view that says that consciousness is something that kind of emerges from complex phenomenon underneath, right? So like some people will say, well, LLMs is just it's just next word generation. It's just generating one word at a time, right? There's no way something that simple can lead to consciousness. And then I go, well, what if I told you that your brain was just a bunch of neurons that follow super simple activation rules, and from that, apparently, consciousness is emerging? It is possible that complex phenomenon emerges from simple phenomenon. That's the whole process of emergentism. A water wave, emerges from molecules of water interacting with each other simply, right? Mm-hmm. But the wave phenomenon cannot itself be described completely by describing the phenomenons of the individual molecules. It's an emergent thing that builds on top of it, right? So the epiphenomenalist view is that consciousness is epiphenomenal, meaning it's a phenomenon that arises on top of simpler interactions. And that's important because it allows us to justify how consciousness can be something built on top of biological neurons, but consciousness can also be something that's built on top of completely artificial computation systems. And I'm more sympathetic to that view.
This is just Ryan thinking, doesn't come from anything other than my brain.
Sure. It's not the official position of your...
No, it's just a random thought I have in the moment.
All right.
neurons are electrical signals. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can agree on
They
that.
can be described as that, yeah.
A chip and a board is electrical signals.
Sure.
I'm curious on what level does the biology of we get into the real difference of then is consciousness exists in electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah, absolutely.
So is it the neuron system? There's this is what I'm always debating at night, right? I'm on this journey with the rest of the world as we have been for thousands of years, right? Trying to figure out what the hell is life.
Uh-huh.
And are you familiar at all with the microtubule study of quantum connections that could be happening in the brain?
Yeah, like Roger Penrose's view. Sure.
I'm like, ooh, just because we don't have the measurement tools now, doesn't mean that couldn't be a plausibility.
Yeah.
And I'm in this thing of like, our brain could be tapping into the quantum, which is where consciousness exists. And I'm really curious of when we get into quantum computing, do we open up?
Could be. Yeah.
All of that. And then like religion and philosophy all pour in, right?
Yeah.
At that exact, and everything just clashes together.
Yeah.
But through using AI, and I'm curious of what interesting prompts and things that you've come to conclude in this is that, and maybe my AI is biased and it's just telling me what I want to hear, but I've asked the question of overlap and find the direct parallels between quantum mechanics, quantum theory, and religion. And there are some fascinating overlaps.
Interesting. What did it say?
I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend. Let's just go pull it up.
Okay, if I had to guess, okay, so I would say, while you're pulling it up, let me.
So it goes into observation effect, right?
Okay.
So you think of perception.
Maybe non-falsifiability. It might say something about that.
It gets into, a little bit of entanglement, talking about superposition, because in our consciousness, not everything's black and white.
Oh, sure. Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So we come in this reality, and especially in science, of like, it's either yes or no.
Yeah.
Where, everything can exist on a wave function. Well, quantum is wave and particle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit. Well, that's kind of like similar. You know what I mean? So you start to overlap how we reason,
right?
And there is this,
and I've seen cognitive modeling work that tries to use quantum principles to model how people think, right? Particularly because of that, the superposition thing. So, for anybody who's not familiar with it,
I know we're deep in the trenches now, but that's why I saved this for the end, because if you're still with us, it means you're interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Superposition in quantum mechanics is this idea that particles can be in the same place at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is this thing where we kind of maybe some of our mental models of how our brains work is that we can have multiple thoughts at the same time, and they kind of just like in superposition, when you try to observe the particles, then the superposition collapses, right? They no longer have that same position.
Right. It becomes reality.
Yeah. And so likewise with our thoughts, we might have these multiple things going on, but then once you pay attention to them or try to make them explicit, then suddenly, it's okay. Then it collapses. So
yeah.
I can see the analogy there. Yeah.
It is an analogy, but then I go into the microtubule study and what they're trying to find there, and and like us trying to pin down. We don't know, like, we can measure different parts of the brain. You doing okay on time?
Yeah.
225?
Yeah. Let me check something.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So as he's looking that up, so I have my AI that gives me clear, direct answers. So both quantum theory and religion attempt to grapple with the unseen forces that shape reality and the overlap in how they treat mystery, paradox, and the limits of human understanding. Direct parallels include uncertainty versus faith, quantum interminence, I don't know, Heisenberg uncertainty principle, wave function collapse. Parallels a religion accepts of mystery and the need of faith beyond observable proof. Observer effect versus prayer/intention. In quantum mechanics, the observer plays a role in shaping outcomes. In religion, human intention through prayer, meditation, ritual is believed to influence reality. Unity of all things. Quantum entanglement shows deep interconnectedness across space and time. Religion often teaches spiritual oneness. God, Brahman, Tao, the interconnected body of Christ. Creation and emergence, quantum fluctuations give rise to universe and cosmology. Religion speaks of creation from nothing. Mystery paradox, quantum theory embraces wave-particle duality and superposition. Religion embraces paradoxes like the Trinity, incarnation, or nirvana, being both nothing and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see those connections. And then they make sense as kind of a high level, like...
philosophical, we don't know nothing. I'm just connecting dots and playing with the AI, right?
Yeah,
I'm not like, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just playing. I'm just asking the computer.
Yeah, and that's why I also thought that it would say something about, unfalsifiability of it. Because some of these things, same thing with like a lot of things in religion and in some of these... like string theory kind of gets attacked for this, right? That some of the things that string theory posits, we don't know how to test. We don't know how to design experiments, see if it's true or not, right? And I know religion has a lot of that, right? Like you just got to take things on faith and that kind of thing, right? So I can see that connection, for sure.
I'm just fascinated by that because I go, what happens when 200 years from now, where we have I've looked at the heart and brain. To me, like, okay, that's our quantum processors. Yeah. But now we have one that we can make out of silicon or whatever the material is that we don't even know exists yet, right? Because we maybe make a new material. Maybe it is us. It goes into are we trying to just recreate us?
Could be, yeah. That's.
I know it's a deep stuff, but as you go down the rabbit hole in this, right? Like when you're talking about intelligence, you're like, where does that road end? It doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's also this thing called the singularity hypothesis, which is this view that we'll get super intelligence because we create the AI smarter than us. The AI can create another AI that's smarter than it, and then where does that stop, right? And then then they say, oh, okay, it keeps going until you ultimately get this infinite level intelligence that is the singularity, and then it just sort of everything collapses on each other, right?
The emergence of a black hole.
Yeah, I don't think that quite works because there are fundamental limitations to information processing.
Right now.
But I think there's logical limitations to it. Okay. It's not like a physical limitation. Yeah. It's because because P is probably not equal to NP. That one might take a while to explain, but P is probably not equal to NP, and because of that, there's probably fundamental limitations on how quickly we can actually process algorithms and find optimal answers to every question. So that doesn't mean that technology can't exist that's smarter than humans. We are not optimal reasoners by any stretch of the imagination. But
yeah. No, it does get in. I don't want to go too it does pull back the curtain on like a whole paradox of weirdness. Like Pandora's box is really what I'm trying to say. Like you and I could sit here until our, we pass out and we're blue in the face because we don't have all the answers to those things. But they are fascinating things that I like to think about, especially as you learn more about human behavior and you observe yourself and you think, okay, well, thoughts create reality. How does that work? What's going on? Perception. Okay, how's the computer interpreting me? Like, in the world that we're going to, it's ever fast changing. What has AI done outside of your thing? Like, what's been the most fascinating discovery for you? And then I have a follow-up question.
Sure. In AI. Well, it's hard to narrow down. I think probably the discovery that language and the key to understanding language was just really good pattern recognition, right? There's the question behind how humans acquired language and how we learn it and how we use it. That's been the bane of cognitive science since its birth, right? And philosophy since at least Wittgenstein and in the early 1900s, right?
Going back to like Sanskrit. I took a language class, and we studied because Sanskrit's the oldest language that we know of, and how all the languages spread off of that. Like all the trees, all the branches of different languages and things and how they interconnected in those sounds. And then you can attach not to cut you off because I want to finish your thought, but like Sanskrit and yoga,
Yeah.
and some of those sounds and the harmonistic things of how it creates different things
interesting.
within your body when you're
Yeah.
saying certain things in Sanskrit. So it's
Interesting.
like back to that energetic, now it's woo-woo, but is it woo-woo, or was that an advanced thing that we knew about,
Yeah.
right? It just came natural, right, to our bodies of stimulating our vagus nerve to calm the nervous system, because our nervous system's how we're interpreting reality.
Yeah. There's something about language cognitively that it seems like there's such a gulf between us and the most intelligent non-human animals, right? And I know, like people think dolphins are really smart, and they are, but it's clear they're not, they don't have universities and things like that, right? So, and that gulf seems to be because we have the ability to speak and to understand language. And once we acquired that ability, it seems that evolution really just sped up, and then our ability to be intelligent and plan and communicate just took off from there. So that's why language has been such a focus of artificial intelligence for a long time, because we were like, how come we can't get these things to talk, right? How come we can't get these things to understand us? And so much work and energy has been spent on it, but then all it took was us figuring out how to do better pattern recognition with neural networks and giving it enough data so it could find those patterns. And that seemed to be all that was required. So that's I think one of the most interesting discoveries
that you've been founded upon. What about from from a prompting standpoint of like in advancing your research now, probably a lot faster, right? Like I just pulled that up. I didn't have to go find a book and then go pull out different religions and overlap. Like I just did that in 30 seconds, which would have taken me hours, if not days or weeks.
Right.
So how have you used that in your own research to connect more dots?
Oh, so much. So I mentioned Perplexity earlier. I love using Perplexity for just quick research questions, right? If I have a question and I know I don't want to do like a thorough literature review, then I'll pull up Perplexity, I'll do the deep research mode, I'll set it so it only uses academic sources, no blog posts or social media. And then it 3 minutes, it puts out a really nice report that is not going to be complete, right? It's not a thorough, literature review, but I mean, it's much better than, it gives me really good information that I can use as a starting point. And that is something that would have taken me a week to do previously. Now I can do it in 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's crazy. So it's just giving you more fuel in your brain tank to think on.
Yeah, less overhead.
Yeah,
I can just move on with my day now. I know the answer to this question. Now I can do what I was planning on doing.
What are you most afraid of in the AI space?
Who's gonna get to control it, and what malicious people are gonna do with it. So this technology is so powerful. It affects every single field of study, every single job on Earth. It can do so much good for healthcare, access to legal protections, all kinds of good things for people. But anything this powerful can also be used to create deep fakes and fool people that don't know better and run scams to take money from older people, right? And I'm not, this is a leadership issue. Like I can say all I want about the technology, but I'm just a university professor that nobody listens to.
You're not just a university professor. So shifting gears to actualization.
Yes.
What's the vision there? Where are you going? What is it? And how's it going to change the industry?
Yeah. So I've been working for a long time on how do you apply AI to legal reasoning. So whenever you have AI and you want to ask it about laws, regulations, contracts, I'm sure a lot of people notice that if you just throw a contract into ChatGPT and ask it questions, it'll give you answers, but it is prone to hallucinations still. It could make up things, and if you're not a legal expert, you might not be able to tell, right? It looks right. And you're like, okay, that's good enough, right? So I started this company, Actualization, about a little over a year ago, and we're creating a contract analysis tool that you can put a contract in there, and it'll find the risks. It'll help tell you what parts you should pay attention to that so you can know what you're signing before you sign it. And we're applying it to 2 domains right now, procurement and real estate. Because I think those are 2 domains where, there are a lot of contracts. Everybody has to sign one or sign a lot, and we think we can really make an impact.
So where was the seed of thought? What made you go, like, of all the rabbit holes you could have went down in the AI space?
Yeah.
What was why that one?
Yeah, I think the legal AI space has so much promise. There's this thing called the justice gap, right? Which is the observation that, look, people that do not have as much money just don't have as much legal protection, right? They can't afford the same access to justice, right? It's just how the system works, right? You can pay for better lawyers if you have the cash. But we can bridge some of that gap with technology. We can give people tools so they can understand what their rights are. They can have their contract examined so they don't sign their rights away without knowing what they're signing, right? Maybe even one day make court cases fairer, or make it so that judges could be held to a standard where they have to rule consistently. There's so much possible good that can be done with this in the legal space. And I've been working on this for years in legal reasoning, and it was only recently that I realized that procurement is a space where there's a need that is not met right now, even by ChatGPT and the many AI systems that we see out there.
So what set you on that journey? Like, I'm always interested in the founder's journey.
Yeah.
To go down that legal.
Yeah. Why did I jump into this?
Yeah. Is there a story that happened? Is there something that interests where you wanted to be a lawyer? Like what?
Yeah. No, I think I've always been interested in just how rules work, right? Like the idea that we were talking a lot about language, right? And kind of the power that words have. Yeah. And the idea that law is this field where you're trying to figure out how language and rules can be applied in a way that's fair, interpretable, and it's not just a matter of putting a rule out there and expecting people are going to behave it, because in the real world, things happen, things get messy, right? And law is all about kind of resolving that messiness and trying to figure out how to keep fairness anyway. And I've always loved this idea. So I've been telling people for years in my research that, look, we gotta pay attention to how AI reasons about laws, because we want AI to follow our laws. And if we just assume it's going to follow it and interpret it in a human-like way, we're going to be surprised and not in a good way. So I started the company about a year ago, and it was pivoted by the fact that the opportunity was here. Even though I've been working on this for years, the technology wasn't there yet. When ChatGPT came out, we finally realized now we can actually do the things that we've been talking about for the past decade, and we can actually develop the tools we've been promising to create. And as soon as I got a chance, I took sabbatical and started working on it.
That's awesome. Okay, so where's it at? Where do you think where's it going? What's the next 6, 12, 18 months look like?
Yeah, we have a beta release already. It's called SquarePacked. You just go to squarepacked.com. You can try it out. We're open to feedback right now. We're looking for that initial batch of users that can help us shape which direction it goes in. We were lucky enough to get a NSF SBIR grant, so that helped us kind of get off the ground and get started with development. And now we're raising a pre-seed round, and we're members of all the. It actually ties back nicely to what we talked about in the beginning, the ecosystem that's growing around St. Pete and Tampa. We've been lucky enough to be a big part of that community. MBAR Collective and Tampa Bay Wave and all these groups. They've been so supportive in helping us, kind of learn how to be a startup, and that's where we are now. Yeah,
what's that transition been like from university professor to CEO founder of a company?
It's been pretty rough, but I learned so much. It's like in The technical side, I don't have a problem. I teach the courses on this stuff. I know how to create the AI itself, but creating a product that will sell is not just about solving a problem. It's not just solving the technical problem. You got to figure out how to fit it to what people want, and that requires a lot of talking to people and just back and forth. When we first started the company, I didn't think it was going to be about contracts. I thought it was going to be about making chatbots secure, and that's what we originally did. And it was only after continually talking to people that we realized that we kind of refined it. Like, oh, actually, we can make more impact in the contract space, and then we can make more impact in real estate and procurement, and that's how we got there. But those are all skills that I've had to learn the hard way. We don't teach that in well, I'm sure they teach in entrepreneurship programs, obviously, but that wasn't my field.
Yeah. So you got, like you said, you want to spend a lot of your time coding. Yeah. Because that's where as being a founder, right? Yeah. But now it's the business acumen. Yeah.
I got to learn how to do sales. I got to learn how to do marketing, all this stuff, right? Which is the challenge.
Yeah, it's probably humbling in a sense, maybe.
Absolutely.
Because you realize how many different specialties there are in it, and there are actual specialties.
Yeah, so much
in it. But I'm sure having a tool now and you being an AI expert, you can really leverage that technology in your learning curve.
Yeah, we have an advantage because we're not starting from scratch. So a lot of people who are entering this legal AI space, and there are a lot of companies trying to pop them in, for a good reason. There's a lot of problems to solve. But a lot of them, as we mentioned, are just creating ChatGPT wrappers because they don't. And when their AI hallucinates and makes up stuff, they don't know how to fix it. And that's the advantage we have. We know how to do it. I've been doing it for years.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. The hallucination, the time I experienced it the most, it was like, what the heck is going on? I had this like 100-page document that was again of like top agents, and I was like, tell me in this document, look for all the Keller Williams St. P agents. And it pulled this list of names, and I'm looking through it, and I go, who is that? And I'm looking, and I go, that agent doesn't even exist. Yeah. And I'm like, where in this report did you find this? And it was, oh, actually, you're right. This name doesn't even show up. I'm like, wait, what? Yeah. Like, how did you just you made up Susie something that's not even in here? I was irritated. I was like fighting with it. Like, sure, like, why did you do this?
Yeah, that's funny. I do that too. Yeah. Even the most advanced version that's out there will still make these kinds of mistakes. And then you correct it and you say, didn't I tell you to check your work? And it's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then it goes back and it doesn't. You're like, what are you doing? Yeah. That when everyone was saying the hallucination thing, I was like, well, if I would have taken that for blank value and I didn't know, and let's say I was someone who didn't know the roster. And I just now put out those lists of names, and they're not even people.
Yeah, you would have fallen for it. That and so many lawyers are getting in trouble for this, right? They're when ChatGPT first came out, some lawyers got in trouble because they used it. It made up some citations, and then they turned in that work, right? And they got a penalty, and they said, "Oh, sorry, we didn't know." And we thought that was it. The field has learned its lesson. And now, almost every week, you're getting a new report of that happening over and over. Even judges now are getting caught using ChatGPT.
Yeah, because we know how good of a tool it is, right, to your point. But it's like...
But they don't know that it's not magic. They think it's a really good tool. That doesn't mean it's perfect.
That goes back to that 20-60-20.
Yeah.
That 20%, you got to put the human back in.
Absolutely.
Big time, right?
You still got to think. You got to... It can supplement your thinking. Don't try to... think that you no longer have to use your brain at all.
Yeah,
then
that's
why
dangerous.
Are we? Yeah, and sometimes we'll get employees do this, right? Like they'll turn in work that is clearly just ChatGPT generated, and I said I could do that myself. I can use ChatGPT to do it myself. Why? You need to be able to add to it.
Yeah, don't just copy and paste.
Yeah.
For us,
or if you copy and paste, at least read it first.
Being in the real estate space, agents aren't all that creative always, and man, the emails that we get now from marketing stuff, and it's like you didn't even bother to change it. Like you straight copied and paste from the thing. And, it's like, but the overuse of emojis and all, it's like, and why? But it's like this weird bias within me. I was like, why do I care? If the information's right. Why do I care that it was? There's like this weird thing going on, right? There's almost like this shame of if you get caught that you used it. Isn't that weird?
I think it's a perceived effort thing. Like, I was just reading someone else on my feed was complaining about, like the scheduling links that you send in emails, right? That's saved me so much time that I could, instead of doing emails back and forth, are you available this time?
Right.
No, how about this time?
Yep.
I just send a scheduling link and then
Boom.
it's done, right?
Yep.
But that does kind of feel impersonal, right? It's like, and then they feel like, oh, am I doing work for you? And
Yeah.
So I think it's probably related to that. Like they send you a ChatGPT generated email and you feel, oh, okay, I'm not worth your time to write out the email, right?
Yeah. It's a weird thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I wonder if there's going to be, and I predict, and some other people that I listen to predict, that there will be this swing to the opposite of human connection.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Like we've gotten so automated that people, at the end of the day, did you see the Harvard study about longevity?
Which one?
This was the recent that the strongest correlation for longevity is the quality of relationships that you have in your 50s.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right? Higher correlation than your cholesterol levels. So if you had higher cholesterol than me, but you had better relationships than I did in your 50s, most specifically, you have a better chance of living longer than me.
Interesting.
Crazy, right? Because humans value connection and community.
Purpose.
And yep. And so as we go so automated, I think there's going to be this swing, as there always is, back the other way.
Yeah, I think people, you already see it now. They want to read social media posts that don't look AI generated. They want to, when you see that AI generated photo on the feed, you're like, your brain automatically turns off, right? I think there's going to be a lot more value in art that feels human generated. That doesn't mean that the things that are successful are always going to be human generated because the AI is going to get so good that it can, fool them. But there's still going to be a market for, I want stuff that feels authentic. Just like home cooked meals is a marketing term, right? And handmade.
Right.
Yeah. I don't see why that's not going to continue.
Yeah. It would be weird though when it tricks us. Like how many times does someone use handmade and it really wasn't? But we still buy it.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
We're going to see that with AI.
Back to the, AI can have original thoughts. It can create original art. And now it's printed.
Yeah.
And there's a name on it. Was there or was it not?
Yeah.
I think we can, just because I want to get on this real quick, just from a security aspect, I think that's where, because NFTs have kind of fallen off.
Yeah.
But maybe that's in that trough too. And I wonder if there's a way, again, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, of using those types of cryptographies and things like that to say, hey, this is original and this is real.
Yeah. I still think there's a use for the blockchain technology. I just don't think that, well, you got the trough and then, the pick back up. I think the trough is going to be a lot deeper for blockchain because it's not having the secure and reliable use cases that we kind of thought it would. And then the pickup is not going to be as high as with AI. I think we're probably going to see solid use cases maybe in like database management or something like that, right? Maybe some banking might actually adopt it, but yeah, it's not going to be as much as the hype of a few years ago.
So what do you think is the technology not as good as we think, or because there was a time where title, as in real estate, thought that all the title is going to go on the blockchain.
Yeah. I think so that is also still a use case that seems plausible to me that it could pick up on, right? But I think that the overpromise with blockchain was like, we're not even going to do any financial transactions without using the blockchain, right? Mm-hmm. And some people were saying that no databases are going to be non-blockchain in the future, right? I think that was too much of an exaggeration, right? So that's higher highs and then lower lows on the trough, and then when we start seeing those stable use cases, like title management does seem to me like one that have you seen it? Like are they still trying to market that?
Yeah, there's a company called Proppy.
Okay.
It's all about putting title on the blockchain.
Yeah.
They were the first company to sell a house using NFTs.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a whole thing. And they actually are trying to do something similar with the contract stuff too, from real estate contracts, but I don't know how good their thing is. But we've had their CEO here, and and she's all over. It's quite interesting technology, but we haven't heard much about blockchain advancements or
not like AI. AI is
everything has its season. So I was just wondering if they come together and have a baby.
I think it's possible. Yeah, in the smart contracts area, I think there's a good intersection because blockchain, like with Ethereum, it had the smart contract mechanism as part of it. I think it was very limited because it required very rigid rules, right? Whereas the current wave of AI gives us that flexibility that we need for true legal reasoning, and that's where they could be a really nice intersection.
Yep, makes sense. So your time in St. Pete, and when you're not at university, when you're not being founder, CEO, how do you like to spend your time in St. Pete?
Ooh, the beach is the closest I can get to Hawaii without actually going to Hawaii, right? Actually, there are a lot of. So my wife and I were doing this thing when we first moved to the region where we wanted to try a different restaurant every week, right? And we quickly realized that we would never finish, right? There's always new restaurants popping up, especially in like the St. Pete area.
Yep.
That it's like, I mean, we love it, right? It's we never have to worry about not having enough choices.
Yeah.
So
you love that. So you're a little bit of a foodie. Okay, so I always ask this question. It's your birthday, and we have to stay in St. Pete.
Yeah.
Where are we going to eat?
Is that that place that had Hawaiian food still here? I forget what it's called, but there was a place that had musubi. I looked it up one time and I don't know. I forgot to save it. Yeah. I think it's just like a small, like almost hole in the wall place, but.
Oh, I wish we knew.
That's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah. I don't know if it's still here. It might have been years ago.
Yeah. But that you really like that place.
Yeah. I mean, because like it's comfort food for me.
Yeah.
It's like I can't have it anywhere else. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, what's a place you know that's open?
Oh, put me on the spot.
Yeah, no, I do. That's what I do.
I don't know. I can't think of it.
Come on, John. We're going to celebrate.
Yeah.
Where are we going?
Is there a Texas State Brazil still?
What was this?
Or a Brazilian steakhouse still on this side?
I don't think so. You like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard of one.
Meats.
You like meats? Okay. Well, there's tons of good places down on, Urban Stillhouse has a good steak. You can go to Bo and Mo's. Thank you. You read my mind, Megan. Bo and Mo's. Have you been there?
I haven't.
Great place. Juno and Peacock. Elliot Astor. I mean, there's tons of good spots all over.
Okay.
All right, so you're visiting the beach. You're doing that. It sounds like you're focused on your work mostly. I can appreciate that because me too. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, good deal. Well, if they want to find you and or your company, what's the best way?
You can reach me. Just go through the university website. My contact information's on there. Or the company itself is called Actualization AI. Website's actualizationai.com, and the product is SquarePacked.
SquarePacked. Well, John, thank you so much for being here. This conversation has been awesome. I'll definitely have to watch this one back. And all the things that we dove into. I definitely learned some. You gave me some really good new data points to think on and ponder about in this crazy world of AI that we're on. And hopefully this is helpful for those of you listening. And knowing that this stuff is happening in our backyard here in St. Pete is fascinating. And that's what this show is all about. It's just spreading the knowledge of St. Pete, of being an amazing place to work, live, and play. So with that, if you're still with us, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share with a friend, and comment below your favorite part of this show. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everyone.